I didn't like that it was repeating what it heard. I mean, I could make theories on it and say like, oh, it's trying to mimic to learn how to talk to a human and like interact with humans. I don't like that they insinuated that the person was still alive, because I can't imagine, and that sounds like it would hurt, and it kind of reminds me of the person who died of radiation poisoning, but they kept him alive, like, artificially for 81 days, because I guess scientists could. I didn't really agree, especially with that. For those of you who don't know, there was this man who got serious radiation poisoning, and trigger warning, by the way, this gets very gruesome and upsetting, so viewer discretion is advised. Anyway, this guy got radiation poisoning. It was severe, and he was taken to the hospital, and he was on like serious life support, you know, like serious, like he could not function on his own at all. And he was constantly writhing in pain because radiation poisoning, like his body was rotting from the inside out while he was still alive. Like, I'm not even kidding. When he eventually died, when they eventually let him die, 81 days later, they saw that like his organs were like rotting and disgusting, his skin was rotting. It was, he should have been dead a long time before they let him die. And what I find so deeply upsetting about that is because I love science, and I think that's obvious by a lot of the things I talk about. I love science. I've never considered any career outside of science. But I do think it can be taken too far, and I think that was one of those circumstances in which it was taken too far. Because, not the appropriate time for a quote, but if I were to quote, you only thought about whether you could, not if you should. That wasn't, like, directly word for word, but the point still stands. They only thought about whether they could, and they just did to prove that they can. They didn't think about whether they should and whether it was a good idea to do that, because in my personal opinion, that was not a good idea. That was not humane in any way, shape, or form. Like, literally, for weeks, this poor man was writhing in agony. Because I can't even imagine what that feels like. I don't think anyone can. I don't think anyone wants to. Like, that would be terrible. And yet it still happened. And I'm like, humans, man, humans do something, huh? There's something. There's something. Anyway, let's watch this last episode. Oh, we have subtitles for this one. Let's go. The following segment utilized a live feed of Lake Mountbank in Canada. Hey, I wasn't done. In Canada during its broadcast. Approximately 25 minutes before the first attack. Attack from what? Tonight, mostly cloudy, lows around 25 degrees, light snow around 12, with brief harsh winds throughout the night. Am I supposed to be seeing something here? I just turned my brightness up, by the way. That was cool. That was an explosion. Honestly, controlled explosions are really cool. As long as, like, no one gets hurt, they are kind of cool. Like, Mythbusters type thing, pretty cool. May 3rd, 1946, Curtis come down to the camp this weekend. Fulton and I have devised a plan on how we can continue to uphold the deal without giving in to these beings' abhorrent demands. I'm sorry, what? Richards has seen a bear lurking near the boys' cabin. We will go out and shoot it. If the statue wants a sacrifice, it will have to settle for this. I will be a pawn no longer. Curtis, I tell you this with complete certainty. If I could do it over again, I would never have made that deal. Glenn Arthur. I don't like it. Oh, this only has a little bit of writing. May 1946. Wretched hands tap my window. A stranger's fangs scrape the walls. How would you scrape the walls with, like, your teeth? Like, unless you were a saber-toothed tiger, you would just have, like, that would be such an awkward angle. Right thigh? What? I really don't. Bo Nadler? Wait, how did you identify that as a person? Neck region, underside. Are we in Attack on Titan? This feels like this has Attack on Titan energy, like the Colossal Titan. Lloyd Mitchell's. How are you identifying this as a person? That does not look like a person. I think you're grasping at straws here. Christine Hoyt. Okay, that actually does kind of look like a person. Granted, that could be the pareidolia talking. I like the word pareidolia, in case that wasn't obvious. It's very fun to say. Darcy Ogden. Okay, no, you are grasping at straws. That doesn't look like a person. Now you're just making stuff up, if you ask me. Mary Dean. Incorrect, I think. I don't know, I'm gonna keep saying this person's wrong, because it does not look like people. Like, I'm sorry, I just think they're grasping at straws and being like, oh, look, it's a person here. No, it's not. You're just trying to freak people out. Glenn, okay. Okay. I'm gonna stop you there. That was a line. That was Morse code, okay? Photo comparison suggests an exponential increase in organism deterioration since mutation. Organism has since lost all resemblance to a bear. Obviously? Like, mutations kind of change how things look and or act. Like, that is kind of how genetic mutations work. Usually it's a physical aspect that has changed, which, I mean, I guess it kind of is, because... Actually, I don't know if dyslexia is a genetic mutation. I do know it's a mutation in the brain where, like, a piece of the brain is either larger than it should be, or it's, like, shaped weird. I do know that that's how dyslexia works, and I know that ADHD is a genetic mutation in the prefrontal cortex. I found that out by Googling lobotomies. Yeah, that was a rabbit hole. Actually, you know what? I will explain that rabbit hole, because I think it's funny. I was reading about, like, 1950s mental asylums when they were still doing, like, lobotomies and things like that. I think that was around the 1950s. I don't actually know. It just has that vibe. Anyway, I was researching, like, early mental asylums and how they did lobotomies because they thought it would work. They don't. They're terrible. It's bad. It's not good. It's stupid. But they used to do lobotomies, and then I was like, okay, I kind of know what that is, but I also don't. So I was like, okay, what is it? When I googled it, it was like, well, it's where basically you mess with the prefrontal cortex. I'm saying it nicely, because guidelines. And I was like, well, basically, it's where you mess with the prefrontal cortex. And I was like, I kind of know what that does, but I also don't. So I was like, okay, what does the prefrontal cortex do? And it has a lot to do with, like, decision-making, focus, things like that. And I was like, hey, that kind of sounds like the things that ADHD messes with. And then I go to Google and I'm like, hey, random question, my guy. Is ADHD a genetic mutation in the prefrontal cortex? Because that is the conclusion I had come to. The answer is yes. Yes, it is. And I'm impressed with myself. In case it wasn't obvious, I'm impressed with myself. Yeah, anyway, back to the topic at hand, I suppose. This was really good. These were all really well made. Excuse me. I have not been sleeping very well. This was like a really well-made series. I really, really enjoyed it, and I am super excited to do more, analog horror in the future. I'm not even going for an hour. I might continue. This might be a long VOD. I noticed that, like, my streams are usually an hour, but my YouTube videos are like 10, 15, 20 minutes. Speaking of which, if you want to see me reacting to basically this, like these two and before, go to my YouTube channel. It's there. I've posted those videos, so you can see my reactions to it, because you can see that I did in fact watch them. You can see that I watched every video here. So if you want to see me react to them, go check it out. And also, if you want to talk to me outside of my streams or during my streams, feel free to go to the chat. I do respond, and I also have a Discord channel which you can join. It's super cool. I strongly suggest it. Also, if you have any suggestions for what analog horror series I should react to next, or what video I should make next, I'm open to it. Leave it in the comments. Go for it. And maybe, possibly, if you stayed this long, click that subscribe button or that follow button, because, you know, helps the human out, helps the sister out. Gives me that good happy chemical, the dopamine. Share the dopamine. I'm probably going to keep streaming, actually, because I can. What analog horror series should I do next? You know what? Let's see.